Hello, this is Boris speaking. Welcome to CLOWNLORE. As you may notice, my voice sounds a little better. It seems I've gotten my clowny hands on a better microphone within my corner of chaos over here. But this prompted me to think, hey, what if I couldn't talk? Well, that got me thinking about mimes, more specifically, Mr. Mime. Consider this an ode to my second favorite Pokémon, the Psychic and Fairy type Pokémon. Now, before we get too far, let me explain this. This video will only cover Mr. Mime in the video games, not in the shows or movies. Mr. Mime, known as Barriet in Japan, is a Generation 1 Pokémon who, despite being called Mr. Mime in English, can be both genders. There's actually a funny story about this. The translator for the early games, Nobuo Gasawara, said that if they try to make the game's sequels or give Pokemon genders in those sequels, that they're going to be quote-unquote pooped. But what is the origin of this mime? Mr. Mime was created by Satoshi Tajiri, seemingly based off of both pantomimes and court jesters, and his appearances in the games are something of note. So we're going to go through the regions with Mr. Mime. Mr. Mime in Kanto is normally a Pokemon you have to trade for, except in the Let's Go duos where you can find him on Route 11. You can only find Mr. Mime in Johto on Route 21, or in the Safari Zone. Mr. Mime can't be found in the wilds of Hoenn. You need to trade him from Kanto or Kalos depending on the game you're playing. Mr. Mime can be found on routes 218 and 222. However, in the remakes, you can find him in the Grand Underground as well as on those routes. Black and White lacks our Mime, unless you trade him from Black 2 or White 2, where you can get them from Route 20 or a trade. Need a Mime here? Well, take a look in the mirror. No, I'm serious. Reflection Cave is where you find mimes in Kalos. You can't catch Mr. Mime in the wilds of Sun and Moon. You gotta trade from the Ultra Duo, where you can find him in Huali City. Here you can find Mr. Mime in his Galar variant, on Route 10 or out of the Lake of Outrage. But if you want a Cantonian Mr. Mime, you gotta trade for one in Spikesmith. A couple thousand years before you can find Mr. Mime in Sinnoh, you can find one in the Obsidian Fieldlands, Sand Gem Flat specifically. The last location is in Pokemon Go, where you can find Mr. Mime, but you can only do this by traveling to Europe. Unfortunately, I am not in Europe. If I was, my main team would be only Mr. Mimes. Now, I've mentioned Galarian Mr. Mime. What's up with that? Well, I will tell you what's up with that. Galarian Mr. Mimes are an ice and psychic type Pokemon that resemble a tap-dancing snowman. This is the only version of Mr. Mime that has a second evolution. Now, just like anyone else, I like shiny Pokemon. But Galarian Mr. Mime, his shiny version kinda sucks. All they did was slightly shift the hue. Cantonian Mr. Mime, though, 1,000 chef kisses for this shiny form. I love it. On top of that nugget, let's talk about stats. Mr. Mime OG has bad HP, bad attack, but to make up for it, he has pretty good special attack and special defense. His defense is below average, but his speed is okay. Kinda above average. The real kicker, though, is his large roster of moves. People can make very good builds with his large roster of moves. From builds focusing on offense to defense to making a clown king of the elements. Galarian Mr. Mime seems kind of a whiz too. He's more middle ground with all their stats, except his speed is better than his Cantonian counterpart. And an amazing build courtesy of Iridicia from the Pokemon DB website is what I call the Unbreakable Cannon. Calm Mind to raise special stats by one stage, iron defense that raise defense by 2 stage, and store power to unleash it all on the enemy. On top of that, they added Ice Beam or Dazzling Gleam to the list, just in case you need to hit hard and can't really wait for the storing. I never got a Mr. Mime in my first Pokemon game, as my first game was Sapphire. And while Mr. Mime isn't the most popular Pokemon, I like him. He's a cool looking clown with a lot of powerful attacks. Now, I'm going to have to do his on-screen appearances in part 2, so tune in for that. But that being said, it's time to end this episode. Please subscribe to join our alley of clowns, and ring that bell for updates on future videos. And I'll see you in the next episode of Clown Lore. Bye!